So, Prof, you had visitors from South Africa today, and you gave very lengthy lecture on governance, politics, and national development, and the history of Rwanda, and where we are now.
Yes.
And they asked questions as well. How did they end up engaging Rwanda to come and visit and learn from our country? What happened? How did that come about?
So I think, as you know, Rwanda is a country that is on spotlight. That's what we see for some reasons. People, our sisters and our brothers from the continent mainly, they want to come and look at our experiences in national transformation. Basically, that's what they are looking at. The management of the society, handling pressing issues, the governance for development that we have been implemented in the last years, chatting with us to understand Rwanda, to understand our context. And I believe it is done for a reason. They are not tourists. They are people who come with serious questions, who come with an appetite to understand. And I believe behind the minds is that across the continent, people are trying to find solutions to the challenges they are facing. And people identifying a number of countries, of neighbors, including Rwanda, to be, to some extent, a context where they can refer to. A context where they can refer to because they know the problems we have been going through, but also they might be knowing about the solutions we have been adopting. And their coming is also testimony that Rwanda is a case worth emulating or learning from. So we take it as another reason to push us to be as much as open as possible, to share our experiences, to share what we have gone through with our colleagues.
Do we gain from this?
Absolutely we do, because Rwanda is a country that is basing its development, its future, in Pan-Africanism or collective transformation of the continent, let's put it that way so that it doesn't sound ideological. So we are looking at Africa as our house, as our home. We are looking at our neighbors as our friends, as the people we think of working together going forward. We too can learn something from them. So if there is something they can share, or even through their questions, we sharpen our thinking and we look back to what we are doing.
Actually, you've had many countries visit, but what was unique about this delegation from South Africa?
I think South Africa is a country, one of the questions that keeps coming is around the political choices. So when you hear them talking and when you look at their political culture, you understand they are much more in the
Contestation
and the configuration of confrontational politics, or let's call it positively liberal or democracy. So the experience of another sort of type is for them, a lesson is for them, it's like a discovery. They're discovering that this is not the only option that can make you progress. So, but the good thing is we also, they tell us how they operate and how things happen. So I find it's a healthy.
I mean, one would be interested, given the recent past of bilateral relations with South Africa and having a delegation, what image does this show?
Of course, they came as a South African delegation for a purpose. So at RGB we are not handling bilateral relations, but we receive delegations who come for a purpose, to learn about our governance model and to learn about our homegrown solutions. But I believe even in that diplomatic arena, there is room for improvement, and because the definition of this country called Rwanda is that there is no one we define as our enemy, whether it is South Africa or other countries. And from that perspective, if you refer to the speech of the president at his inaugural speech, actually, so you'll understand that the stand of Rwanda as a country, it's a stand at the heart of Africa transformation, African union, African development, regional integration, Pan-Africanism as a trend, diplomacy that is pro-Africa and is pro-development of Rwanda. All those spur towards strengthening bilateral relations by all means.
Yes.
I believe Rwanda is open, is friendly, is willing to strengthen. I think, even if it is not the chapter under my RGB's mandate,
yes,
but we believe that there is nothing else than building friendship between us and them.
President Paul Kagame recently, in one of the speeches, made a comment on visitors coming on tours, study tours in Rwanda, that we shouldn't be sleeping, we shouldn't thump our chest and say we are good. So does Rwanda also send people from other countries also to learn, not to, to think that
Oh,
they're
yeah. No. That's, of course, because when we do send, not only we send, but also we invite. When you ask for people with higher capacity to come and train us internally, what are we doing? We want to gain from their experiences. When we send out our young people to go and learn in Western, South African, Indian, Asian, European universities and American universities, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We are borrowing their knowledge so that it can benefit the Rwandan people. When foreign universities are coming here, and we welcome them and we host them and we send in our kids, Carnegie Mellon and many others to come. We are ready. We are tapping into the capacities of others so that we can foster our development. And I never thought that what we did is the maximum possible that a human being can do. So we are striving to improve our conditions using the opportunities at our disposal, and also the human capital, the human element coming in. I believe we can do better than we are. We can do much better than we are doing. But I believe as well, where we are, we have really done a good job in transforming people's life, social protection, in creating infrastructure for education for all, in creating hope for Rwandans, in ensuring security, in putting infrastructure that will allow for that sustainable development to emerge. So I think as a developing country, we have been doing good, but good is not enough. We need to do better, and that better does not have limit. You do better today, and tomorrow you want to do better again. So that's what I think we commit to do in the coming 7 and more years, to make sure that the Rwanda we want happens, and happens fast.
South Africa is larger than Rwanda, has more resources than Rwanda, and has had a democracy that is older than Rwanda, or politics that are older than Rwanda, much as we share some experiences of violence and bad history. Africa has many countries with great things to learn from. What was your motivation to pick Rwanda as a country you want to learn a few things from?
Our democracy started in 1994. While we were celebrating democracy, we were faced with violence in this area. And during that period, from 1994, within a short space of time, there were many things that Rwanda has turned around. One of the things will be, one, remember the constitution. You borrowed our constitution. But I can tell you now that even now we also want to change, want to amend our constitution. But the first thing we want to know whether the constitution that you adopted, that is in a way, although there will be parts that are not similar to our parts, but in terms of those issues that are common to both countries, firstly, are they working for you? But for the things that are not working for us and they are working for you, what is it that we can learn, take back them home? Because Rwanda, South Africa, and other countries in Africa, we regard ourselves as Africa, one Africa. We might be situated in the southern part of Africa, but the political party that I come from, every 5 years when I go to the national conference, I am reminded that I must fight or strive for a peaceful Africa. Maybe if you were to look at the legislature again, we have what is called Citizen Responsibility Program. But in our country, in terms of cabinet, national, I remember during the times of the then President Thabo Mbeki, we adopted Litsima. Those things are similar, but we call them differently, and we implement them today, but tomorrow we go back to square one. What is it that we are not doing right? What is it that we can improve based on what we are doing in Umuganda and so forth? But I'm also aware that with the gender parity that you have, Rwanda is the first in the whole world. It's number one in the whole world. We started in South Africa. We started with a 30% women participation, especially at leadership level. We then we amended to 50%. In my party, it is still compulsory. When you put candidates, you can rather have a zigzag or what we call a zebra model, where if a man is number one, number two should be a woman, and so forth. But at times, if there are women in the top 5 or top 10, you don't change them. You would rather have more women than men in the list. But unfortunately, because other parties do not have that commitment, it's not their policy. At times you'll find that our number will go, but well, the others is 1-1, and they happen to be wills because it starts within the political system. Therefore, when you come to government, already those that are leading, if they are men, they want to come, they won't give other people a chance.
Offered just a few things that you take with you that you could mention to anyone in a couple of seconds. What are those that you picked from your time around the country here?
Well, because we started yesterday, I love Umuganda. What made me to come here is the Umuganda, because I ran Umuganda. On the 18th of July, the men's forum, we have a men's forum which is led by one of the presiding officers at the legislature. They went out, they went to clean the park. In fact, the chief whip was leading another group in a park and a taxi rank. 18th July is Mandela Day, because that's the day that we can dedicate ourselves to do that.
So you had in Uganda.
But when you pass there the following day, it's dirty. What is it that we are not doing right? What is the secret that Rwandans are doing correctly that we can learn? But I also like the fact that in as much as we are an urban province, you are a rural country. In fact, the population of our province is 13 million citizens in my province alone. But if you were to look at South Africa, it's only about 56 million citizens. But if you were to look at my province alone, we have unemployment rate. In as much as we are encouraging our women, especially from the informal settlements, from those areas, to also start agricultural projects, but there's no land for them to be able to, not necessarily that, because you know what happened during colonization? The land was shared amongst white people, and we're left with nothing. At times when government wants to do a project, they want to buy land for the people, prices will escalate. I was once a minister of housing. I wanted to build houses for poor people, but I couldn't, because the land that will cost about 10 million, all of a sudden, because government has an interest, they will need 50 million. Now you must rush to the courts and fight, and it takes time to be resolved in the courts, because it's not an easy process. I love the Women Empowerment Program. This thing of saying, if I give you a cow, your firstborn cow must also be shared. You know, it's also good. It's something that we need to learn. We can't be selfish when we deal with development, and it's something that we need to inculcate in the minds of our people.
There was something to do with politics, of contentious politics, confrontational politics versus consensual politics here.
Well,
How did that go with you?
well, if we were to compare with my country, our politics are contentious. Maybe it's because of where we're coming from. We have accepted each other while we are diverse. Even those that are you must still accept them because it's part of their right. They have a right to raise issues. In fact, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the party of Malema. Malema was the president of the ANC.
Very contentious.
He came from our party. The kind of issues that he puts on the agenda, I agree with them, because those are the issues that are supposed to be going to be assisting our people. But the how part, it's the how part that I have a problem, because being a young person, I can't insult elderly people. I need to respect people. While I differ politically, it does not mean that I need to be rude to others and so forth. And I don't wish you to be in that similar situation. Hence, your own situation tells me that at times politics might not work.
Okay, my final
because
question.
of those issues.
My final question. The CEO was telling you about how security is paramount for Rwanda, extremely paramount.
Security.
That it's like the engine of everything,
Yes.
internally and externally. We have some people who are in South Africa and they've been causing a lot of trouble for us in the country. Have you discussed that in South Africa? How does that make you feel?
Well, maybe discussions might be at the national level, not at the level where I'm in.
But you are aware?
Well, I'm not aware, but I will know other people coming from other countries who are problematic in their countries. They're in South Africa for different reasons. But the problem that we have in South Africa, we can't control our borders because others come illegally. And it's something that we ask the minister to even start looking at it now. Because we'll find that, let me not mention countries, but we'll find that people are demonstrating against their own president in their own country. But they don't do it in their country because they'll be beaten. But they come to South Africa because South Africa, we have political tolerance. We are allowed to demonstrate, we are allowed to say whatever. You can insult the president in South Africa, it's nothing. Whereas in other countries, including yours, you will not insult the president. So that's why when we say politics are not supposed to be at that level, we become surprised because we can go demonstrate closer to my house. I was once a mayor, in fact twice. My municipality was small, close to 250 people. People will come march to my own house, which is private, not even to the office. You must go out, take the memorandum, they will go. But at times you'll find that some of those demonstrations, at times they are violence. But if they were to burn down my house, obviously they'll be arrested. But it's some of those things that we tolerate because we have political tolerance of each other. Okay. Whereas in other countries it might not be allowed.
Given what you've said you've taken from the visit, and given the probably different attitude with the South Africans, how do you think receptive they will be if you at all you decide to implement whatever you've taken from Rwanda?
Well, fortunately, the people that we work with are receptive to any idea. You see, like now I'm here. 2 weeks ago I was in Sweden. Sometimes last year I was in Ghana. Because we're trying to learn. We're not experts. You know, when you are in governance, there's no expert. You must always implement models, evaluate whether they're working for you, and change. When you adapt, you must look at who else is doing the same thing somewhere else, whether those things can help to improve your country. But if you're going to close yourself and sit in your own institution, you'll never succeed.